Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March 23rd regular board meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. It is truly wonderful to see all the faces on Zoom. As a matter of fact, I'm 3 pages deep, so I can't even see everyone. I have to flip through, but I'm so glad you're able to join us this afternoon and look forward to our recognition, which happens in just a few minutes. I would like to ask everyone if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of
America and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get the hang of that over Zoom. It's a little easier in person. And tonight we have Director Mitchell to read our land acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry, I can't read it. I have to make a call right now, so I just have to walk away for 5 minutes, and I'm so sorry.
I'll be glad to read it.
Thank you, Pam. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Pam. No worries, Tracy.
No worries. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast, Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors of this land, on whom shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you, Director Lassane. And would the secretary please call the roll? Oh, can't hear you for some reason.
President Mason.
Present.
Vice President Lassane.
Present.
Director Berg.
Present.
Director Mitchell.
I'm present again. Sorry about that.
Director Nichols. Student Representative Hussein.
Present.
Student Representative Pilch-Bassan.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our first item of business, as always, is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, may you please give an overview of tonight's agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public and to our guests tonight on Zoom. Thank you for being here tonight. Tonight's agenda contains the following: a segment for recognition, the superintendent's report, a segment for board comments, segment for public comments, segment for routine business, segment for strategic progress monitoring, segment for information discussion, and upcoming agenda items. There have been no changes since publishing the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The agenda is adopted, which takes us now to recognitions. And tonight we are excited to have the 2021 Prodigies for Peace competition winners. Thank you again all for joining us. I wish we were all crowded into the boardroom where we could see your faces in person, but so glad you were able to make it here and smile on your camera. So I am going to go ahead and turn this over to, it looks like Sally Lancaster, Dr. Sally Lancaster.
All right, thank you very much. What a great night. I would like to welcome all of the students, the parents, the teachers and principals who are here to celebrate the great work of our students. We're here to celebrate the amazing Everett Public School Students Award recipients of the 20th annual Prodigies for Peace Essay and Art Contest. This annual contest is sponsored by the Snohomish County MLK Day and the NAACP Black History Month celebration. The Prodigies for Peace essay and art contest helps students draw connections between the people and the events that shape the civil rights movement and the social issues that really influence their lives today. Participation in this contest helps our local community remember and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would also like to acknowledge Beth Lucas, has coordinated this event and has worked hard to inform students, and she facilitates the judging and making sure that all of the entries get back to the rightful owner. And next, I'm going to have our Director of Equity and Access, Ms. Joy Grant, share a little bit more about our award recipients. And if Ms. Grant, your mic might be muted. Okay, well, I'll just take this from her. So today we are recognizing 48 student award recipients representing 11 different schools in our district. And this is 30 different teachers who helped students with this and sponsored.
Somebody on the school board.
So I would like to thank the teachers for providing the students the instruction, the opportunity, and the support to create and author these great works. And now we're in for a treat because we have a video that is showcasing these works. And so let's go to the video.
Hi, my name is Colton, and this is my project for the NAACP. But that represents diversity and everyone saying hi to everyone. So it represents that all of them, no matter what, love each other with no prejudice. So we have no doors, which signifies open doors, no prejudices, therefore meaning that everyone can come in, rich or poor.
Now that was a fantastic video. I thought it was very inspiring to hear your visions of peace. I will tell you, the family that was happy at the dinner table and no one hears the knock at the door, I cannot wait. I've got to track that one down and make sure I read the end. I liked how everyone, the pictures and the writing was about living in peace and harmony. And Denise, wherever you are, when you grow up and you want to be a teacher, I hope you come back and teach in the Everett Public Schools. So thank you, students. And just a reminder for all of us, no matter what, as Colton said, to love each other with no prejudice. We really appreciate your hard work with this. You will all be getting certificates delivered. And so the final special thanks I want to give is to Mrs. Jennifer Goodhart, who created that fantastic video. She's going to be delivering certificates signed by our superintendent and the school board, and the ribbons from the Prodigies of Peace contest, as well as your artwork and essays back. So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Mason.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful video. Just a great, great opportunity to showcase all the talent that we have in our district. And it was just so fun to see the pictures that people drew and to read, especially the words that were written. Very heartfelt, really wonderful. So thank you all again for being here. You are welcome at this point to leave the meeting. You're welcome to stay at the school board meeting. But I just want to say, give the directors one last chance to give a round of applause to all of you. That was awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on with our meeting, and our next item of business is 7.0, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Salzman, turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, our public, and to all our students that were on the line for a minute, teachers and principals and parents and grandparents. Thank you. I was going to say a few words and do a moment of silence, but I'm going to go with a few words now, if you don't mind. There was a lot of tragedy in our world recently, and even in the past this year. And you see an opening segment like this, where kids talk about love and kindness. And that's what our world needs more than ever, is love and kindness. Everybody should feel safe all the time. Everybody should feel equal all the time. That's what makes our country great. And it is very important that we reiterate that over and over again to each other, because we should always be one family and caring for each other, no matter what your beliefs are, your ethnicity, or anything like that. Today, I read a book to the Emerson students that will be video to the entire district about kindness. And that's what I want us to all think about in these days, is kindness. Tragedy does not define us. What defines us is that we make this a great country for each other, and we share our views together and love each other. So I wanted to share that tonight. And then on another note I'd like to share is this. I was with the legislators last week with our outstanding school board and our outstanding students. And I cannot say enough how proud I am of the future. When I met with legislators, and to have students like Rokia, Arnav, Amina, and Tara represent our district, and to hear their story, what they endured this school year, and how they helped make a change for not only our district, but for other districts. People heard their voices, and they were the true leaders. You are outstanding leaders. And I am so proud to work with you and for you and serve you every day, because you represent the student body, all the students in Everett, and you were amazing. The legislators heard you. I watched their hearts beat. I literally watched their hearts beat on that screen. And you make us proud. So I know the future's bright. I'm never going to give up for our future. And thank you for making my job better each day. I just want to thank you, students. That is my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Salzman, for those thoughtful words. Appreciate that. Do directors, we're moving on to director and student representative comments. Let's start with our student representatives tonight. Would either like to say a few words, or do you have anything to share? Amina?
I just want to start off by saying my heart goes out to all those people that have been affected by the tragedies that keep occurring. And I hope that that is not the new normal, that we go back into a society after the pandemic that is more lovable, more kind, and more inclusive. And I was able to talk to legislatures this past week, and it was an amazing experience. I talked to Governor Inslee, I talked to senators, and every single time I felt like my story and my voice was being heard and was being taken into consideration. So I just want to thank the legislature and the board for letting me have that amazing opportunity that I will cherish for as long as I can remember. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of what Amina said. Number one, about the tragedies occurring in the past week and the past year, like Dr. Salzman said, and just hoping that that Amina and I's generation is the one who can hopefully do a little better than that in our future, and spread the love and kindness that all those young kids were talking about in that video. And then yeah, also the same thing about it being really exciting to talk to legislators. I know it's like one of my biggest passions is being involved in like actual policy and the legislative process. So it was really exciting to get to talk to our legislators and also to Governor Inslee. And it's really cool seeing Amina get to ask a question actually directly to Governor Inslee. So I just want to shout her out for that, because that was really exciting to get some Everett representation directly to the governor. And yeah, I was it's been a pleasure to serve on this board, and that was really a really exciting opportunity. So thank you for being able to set that up.
Thank you for sharing that. And I did also want to point out that someone else in our district, Dr. Salzman, got an opportunity to speak with Governor Inslee this past week when he called him up to say, good job, Everett. So thank you for representing our district, both Dr. Salzman and our student representatives. Always nice to get a good kudo from the governor of your state. Directors, do you have anything to share? The rest. Director Berg or Nichols? You want to start?
I'll let Director Mitchell go first.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just want to say that most people do not know my brother is Japanese and his wife is Okinawan. So, you know, violence against Asians really does hit close to home for me. And then I saw on Facebook today, one of my friends who's a teacher in Colorado, her friend's parents actually own that store. And luckily the parents were both okay, but you never know how close all this violence touches the people you know and love. And so I appreciate, Amina, what you said. We need to come out of this with love. I cannot believe I can actually speak after watching all those student videos, that their words and their pain, some of them actually shared pain, just breaks my heart. And I really do appreciate what the staff is doing. It is absolutely apparent to teach diversity and inclusion to these kids. I believe it's apparent in those messages that we saw that came from those schools. So I really want to thank the staff for that. Also appreciated going to the meeting with some legislators last week. Anor from Jackson was at one or two of my meetings, and his messages from the students at Jackson was very impressive. I appreciate Jeff stressing the sort of the bills where we are most focused on. unfortunately hearing that there are no bills specifically related to social emotional learning for our students, but they did hear our voice about how important that is for our students, directly from our students, as well as I believe several of us shared our concern for the staff and what kind of support will be there for staff. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to a great meeting.
Thank you, Director Mitchell.
I guess I'll jump in. So I just want to echo some of the comments that this has been a really difficult week, I think, for our nation. And it comes at a difficult time when we're all thinking about sending our students back to school. And so part of my thoughts tonight as a director comes to you because I'm a parent too. And so, you know, I just want to be frank. When I got that email from the district saying that that my kiddo is going to have to be back in a classroom on the 19th, I got kind of a pit in my stomach, and because there's a certain anxiety, right? And it's the unknowns, not just health, but safety, and that again goes back to some of the things that we've seen this week, and also specifically, there's been a lot of racial animosity online that's been brewing this last year, and I think as a district, we can't ignore that. We can't think that it only happens in other neighboring districts. We've got to acknowledge that we might have some potential flare-ups here. And I guess I just want to say to parents and the students that we hear you, we see you. Your voice is so valuable right now. And I'll tell you, despite having that pit, you know, we're excited to go back because we know all of the precautions and the planning that the district's taken to make sure that our students are healthy and safe. But if you are feeling anxious and if you do feel like, you know, you have questions, I will tell you as a parent, this is the most amazing district to be in. And so I'm excited for my girls to go back. I'm excited for them to be around their friends and other students. But I also want to acknowledge that the anxiety that we saw in some of those student clips earlier and the anxiety that we might be having as parents and adults, it's real and shouldn't be diminished. But Gal, I am excited to have my kids out of the house for a few hours a day. So thank you, Everett, and to the staff and teachers that are going to be there making this all happen. It's amazing.
Thank you. I have heard that comment from more than one parent. Director Nichols? Some reason you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Wait, now you're muted. Now you're unmuted. We still can't hear you though. Okay, we'll move on to Director Lassane for the moment.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm very happy that we're coming to the point where we can have more students in person in the classroom. I do know that we will still have students that will be in the classroom, but through Zoom. But it's really great to be able to say that we will have more in-person students in the classroom. So that's fantastic. And yes, I do understand that the district is taking safety very, very importantly, and they are making sure that we have all the PPE to make sure our kids are safe and our staff is safe once they come back to school. So I'm very happy about that. I do want to say that just like we stood with our brothers and our sisters through the Black Lives Movement, we also stand with our brothers and sisters of Asian Americans. We also stand with our Latin American students and families. Our brothers and sisters there need the safety and support that's necessary as a human being and as an American. And I just want to say we stand with you. There's no reason why we should have hate and racism, and it must stop here and now in our country. And one of the most important things is to ensure that we all understand that the fabric of America, the history of America involves everyone. And I pledge that I will continue to ensure that everyone is focused in on learning what that fabric of inclusiveness is all about. I And I know our district is working very hard to ensure that our history instructions, our civic instruction ensures that everyone learns how everyone has contributed to the growth and development of this country. And it's important to know that we're not all alone in this world, and that we all share a responsibility to learn about what other people have done for our country and here in the world as well. And we need to learn that everyone is part of that fabric. And so I do want to say racism needs to stop here and now in our country. We are not alone, and we stand with all of our brothers and sisters of Asian descent, Hispanic descent, and definitely African-American descent. We support and we ensure that everyone needs to be inclusive in this fabric of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Nichols, you want to try again? We are still not hearing you. I don't know what the issue is. Okay, you're going to have to save up your comments for next time. Okay, I just want to echo much of what other directors have said. That's sort of, I think that's my standard since I typically go last. I really enjoyed the meetings with the legislators. But I will say, as Dr. Salzman has already commented, the students were truly the stars. I mean, I was choked up, I was moved. They had stories to tell that were just so real and raw and touching. And I know that our legislators walked away with a better sense of what our students are actually experiencing right now at this time. So thank you both for being there and doing that. I really appreciate that, and for representing our district so well. I want to thank the winners of the Prodigy of Peace. It's so much fun to have them all here tonight, or had them all here. More fun to have them in person. And I also want to thank Jennifer for putting that video together. That was really great. An excellent way to see all the artwork and read all the comments that they made in a very efficient and entertaining way. And then, you know, as we look at the tragedy that surrounds us, I do have a sense of hope right now. I feel more hope now than I have in a very long time. I look at our district and how we're moving forward and bringing students back into the classroom. I see more and more each day between our teachers and our staff getting vaccinations, and even my family and friends around me. I've actually planned a vacation. Maybe that's why I'm most hopeful. But it's so nice to see our world opening up again and things slowly getting back. We have a little bit of a bumpy road ahead, I think, but we certainly have done the planning, or you have done the planning, to make this a successful reentry for all our students. And then lastly, I just want to end with a little, someone had a birthday since our last meeting. And I would like to just shout out to Dr. Salzman a happy belated birthday from the board.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on. We are now to public comments, and I believe we do have a comment to be read this evening. Can I turn that over to Darlene?
Okay, we have one public comment. It is from Barb Pearson. It says, "Good evening. Thank you very much for your time this evening. My name is Barb Pearson, and I'm with the PAX High School Foreign Exchange Student Program in the Everett community. I am also a fellow educator of 36 years and am acutely aware of the current issues facing you with the pandemic, opening schools, and community safety, as well as the challenges ahead with opening full-time, distance spacing in classroom, safety, and logistics in the fall. In reference to no longer enroll exchange students due to COVID and its complication, I'm requesting a postponement of this decision until much later in the spring. We still do not have any idea of the impact of this pandemic for fall 2021. It seems daily you are faced with new decisions for both this spring and next fall. I feel canceling this program is premature and would like it to be reevaluated as more data comes in and vaccines are distributed. Let us put a pause on deciding right now. In all the years I've worked your community and school, it has been a very enriching place for my students. Your school district is a U.S. States Department Medallion Award recipient for the inclusion of both Flex and YES Global Scholarship students. This is awarded to districts dedicated to diversity and cultural awareness and committed to creating a better understanding for a better world. I would like that to continue this coming year. I've enclosed details in the emails sent to you. I would especially appreciate if at this time you take our students and families back for next year. They were being enrolled last year and in the process of being accepted, the pandemic hit and Everett had to close the door on these placements. As the host families excitedly prepare for their students' arrival, the pandemic, everything came to a stop. There was new hope when the U.S. State Department and Washington State both certified PACs to move ahead with placements this year, 2021-22. That information is in the email I sent to you. Our host family and students have a chance to do the year together once again. Please do not let the door close on them for a second time. This year, we were able to provide a safe and enriching year for 17 exchange students who came and attended local high school. We will be fully equipped next year to provide the same for our incoming students, no matter what form or fashion the year may begin with in the district. So in conclusion, 1, please reconsider and delay your decision to close the program. 2, please allow our current families and their students to be re-enrolled in your school from last year. 3, continue to maintain your medallion status by registering YES and Flex students this fall. 4, let us work together as educational partners in the days to come as we see what lies ahead for the fall. Please do not end this program without looking over the information I have sent you. With these vital things in mind, please postpone your decision concerning taking exchange students and work with us to continue these incredible experiences in your community. Thank you for your time. I am available at any time to follow up with you. Barb Pearson, PACS Local Coordinator.
Thank you so much for reading that for us tonight. We certainly will follow up with that and look into the options for our district, whether we can make that happen or not. I'm not entirely sure at this point regarding pandemic guidance and health guidance on those issues. So we will definitely follow up though. Director Nichols, I just wanted to check back in and see if you have a voice on Zoom.
Let's see, is it
Yes,
all right? It's working. Yeah.
Welcome. Would you like to say anything regarding director comments now? I don't think it's
just briefly, just so we don't get too far off track, but I don't think I could say it better than folks have already said about the recent tragedies that have occurred. That until we address some of these fundamental things in our country and our society that need to change, things like racism, things like gun control, things like that, these are going to keep happening. And I'm sorry that this is a world that our students will be inheriting, but hopefully that we will be empowering them to make good decisions as future legislators, as community leaders. So just keep up the good work, all the students, and congratulations to all the students tonight. It was fun seeing all your names when we signed all the certificates, and then seeing all your faces here and being able to put names to those faces. It was great. But that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing those comments. I appreciate it. Okay, with that, we are now moving on to section 10.0, which is our consent agenda. Dr. Salzman, may you please provide an overview of tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board Directors, and the public. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, or current contracts. Sometimes it includes items that occur less frequently but are of routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received no questions regarding items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
It
Second.
has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Would any director like to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no requests, we will go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved. That takes us to section 11.0 of our agenda, which is strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we have two items of business. The first one is our 11.01 dual language program, and we're going to have an overview of our program that is opening next fall. I'm very excited for this. And I believe we have Ms. Spear and Mr. Golden here to walk us through. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you two.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, President Mason, Board of Directors, and Dr. Salzman. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you information regarding our Spanish immersion dual language program in Everett Public Schools to inspire, educate, and prepare each student to achieve to high standards, contribute to our community, and thrive in a global society. Our students will lead and shape the future. They'll build a well-rounded, healthy, and flexible thinkers with global perspective who can access resources and collaborate. They will demonstrate empathy, pride, and advocacy for self, school, and community while respecting the diversity and worth of others. They will acquire the knowledge, attitudes, and skills to adapt to the emerging needs of a changing world. To be clear, I know you're familiar with Everett Public Schools' mission and vision. In an intentional manner, I want to make sure you see the connection between Everett Public Schools' mission and vision and the outcomes of a Spanish immersion dual language program. During the 2018-19 school year, OSPI provided guidance to explore dual language programs in our Emerson Evergreen Cascade feeder pattern. The Superintendent of Public Instruction's vision is access to dual language programs for all students. The state superintendent's vision includes two-way dual language beginning in kindergarten and continuing through at minimum 8th grade, preferably through 12th grade for every student. Dual language programs prioritize students learning English and Native American students as the program to support language acquisition. The vision in Washington State is for students to have access to dual language programs by 2030.
We know that dual language programs benefit students across diverse demographics. Some of the benefits shown here directly connect to the strategic plan refresh, and that we know our dual language program will help support ensuring 3rd grade literacy, increase math and science achievement, and as we look at our systemic K-12 dual language pathway, we will be ensuring students are prepared to succeed in college and career with developing 21st century skills. Through research of dual language programs, we see connections between honoring a student's prior experience, using culturally responsive practice, and making clear direct connections to family and community with closing the opportunity and achievement gaps. When a student feels safe, when a student feels honored in relation to their identity and their teacher creates this environment through community building, culturally responsive practice, and effective instruction, we will see student growth not only in academic achievement, but in development of their individual identities.
The graph on this slide indicates the English Learner Program enrollment in October of each year between 2015 and the current school year 2021. The orange bar indicates the total number of active English learner students. The blue bar represents the number of active English learners whose primary language, or L1, is Spanish. On this slide, you see the elementary English learner enrollment during the current school year. The darker orange represents the active English learners, while the lighter orange color at the top of the bar indicates the number of English learners who have exited the program in the past 2 years. The number of exited English learners is important because we must monitor students for 2 years once they exit the program. As you look across all schools, you notice that Emerson has the highest number of active EL students. In the bubble, we've highlighted the number of L1 or native Spanish speaking students. At Emerson, across the grade levels, there are approximately 20 L1 Spanish students in every grade level, with the exception of 5th grade as students exit. Here on this graph, Professors Virginia Collier and Wayne Thomas, both from George Mason University, are internationally known for their research on long-term school effectiveness for linguistically and culturally diverse students. The research by Collier and Thomas on dual language education is perhaps the most well-known across the United States. Their longitudinal studies of student achievement in various types of educational programs for English learners are considered seminal work in the field. The graph, their findings, is often used by school districts as the rationale for starting dual language immersion programs. The graph represents multiple programs that support language development for English learners. The bottom of the graph represents grade levels. The left side is the normal curve equivalence, or NCE, the measures of student achievement based on group performance on standardized measures. At the bottom and least effective is pull-out services, which are programs that pull students out of their general education classes for language acquisition classes. Moving up the graph, you see content, English language development, and early exit transitional and late exit transitional, which are instructional programs provided in both languages. Then one-way dual language, and at the top, two-way dual language programs. Prior to remote learning in late winter, early spring of 2020, a district dual language task force was formed. The purpose of the task force was to develop a two-way Spanish immersion dual language program by creating a master plan to guide implementation. Principal Blythe Young joined the task force and contributed to the work well before joining Emerson. Since joining Emerson as the building principal, she has created a building-based language leadership to guide the work.
The state of Washington's Dual Language Task Force, as well as Everett's Dual Language Task Force, use the Center for Applied Linguistics, or CAL, guiding principles for dual language education to implement and monitor dual language programs. This helped us to develop the structures around the program implementation, as well as has guided some of the selection of our curricular materials. In addition, this will be our framework when working with teachers around instruction and assessment practices in relation to dual language acquisition.
Emerson will be implementing a two-way Spanish immersion dual language program where there is a balanced number of native Spanish speakers and native English speakers. Another type of program which we are not implementing is called one-way dual language, where the class is English learners or Native American students. Districts implementing dual language use either a 90-10, 50-50, or variation. Emerson will be implementing a 90-10 model. This model begins with 90-10 and builds to 50-50 in 5th grade. In kindergarten and 1st grade, this means all classroom instruction will be in Spanish and specialists will be in English. As students progress through grade levels, more content will be taught in English. In a 50-50 model, instruction is split between Spanish and English. In dual language, this is done by switching teachers or the SCARF method. The SCARF method is used by the same teacher, switching scarves, for example, a blue scarf for Spanish and an orange scarf for English. In accordance with Board Policy 2110, a proposal for a new instructional program, Spanish Immersion Dual Language, was submitted to the Chief Academic Officer, who presented to the Superintendent's Cabinet. With approval by the cabinet, this presentation is informational for the board. The proposal includes rationale, connection to the strategic plan, content, standards addressed, technology, implementation schedule, and possible implications on the budget. The plan prioritizes Emerson students for the dual language program. If there's space, students outside the Emerson attendance area will be considered. A lottery will be used when a high number of students are interested. Transportation will be provided for Everett Public School students.
As previously mentioned, Principal Young has established a dual language leadership team at Emerson. We are currently in curriculum reviews, specifically looking at an adoption for our Spanish language arts program. Our K-5 math adoption is also using the lens of having Spanish materials available. And they're working closely with the dual language teams to ensure that the program implementation meets the needs of the student and the program. The Emerson team has assessed the campus and is working to update signage across the building. Positions were posted and kindergarten staff who are biliterate and bilingual are being hired. Emerson staff has also hosted numerous information nights for parents. Because of the Emerson's team's hard work, we currently have 35 students who have registered so far. This is significantly higher than the average kindergarten enrollment for this time of year. We anticipate having 3 sections with 20 students each. Our next steps include the dual language task force continuing to convene to support implementation and refinement of the master plan. We will have professional development for the dual language staff occurring over the summer and throughout the school year, which includes curricular professional development as well as best practice in dual language acquisition. And as the program develops, we will add 1 grade level each year to the dual language program to support students as they move up. And now I'm going to pass this over to, or I'm going to open this up for questions. We do have Principal Young here as well as Assistant Principal Bell to answer questions about the program. In this final slide, you see this mock-up of the signage that Principal Young has been working on.
Thank you so much to both presenters. I am so excited about this program and to see it finally launch. We have been discussing this for years, and to see it finally come to fruition is just really exciting. So thank you for providing the overview and walking us through that. Directors, do you have any questions or comments for either of our presenters or Blythe Young?
I had just a couple questions. So the curriculum that we chose, the Spanish, the curriculum that we chose for this, is that based on, there's, you know, like a lot of different dialects of a lot of different languages, right? So like when I learned German in high school, found out later there's actually Dutch German that I learned and not actually Hochdeutsch, you know? And so have we chosen, I'm assuming we've chosen like some standardized version of Spanish that's spoken like in Central America by our students, things like.
Great question, and thank you so much for asking that. So we're currently in the final recommendation phase. So we're looking at our top 3, and we're having that meeting on Friday to move forward with some publisher presentations. And that actually was a question we had very early on, is what is the dialect we're going to be looking at? And it is a more centralized version that is present in the major curriculum. It's the most used like version of the words, if that makes sense. However, we have really focused in our key criteria on ensuring that we have native and authentic texts and authors from a variety of areas. Our committee is incredibly diverse, which we're very fortunate to have representation from a variety of different Spanish-speaking countries.
That's fantastic. This whole presentation, the 90-10, just gave me flashbacks to being in the Army and learning Korean at the Defense Language Institute and showing up day 1 and having my teacher speak Korean to me and having no idea what was happening, but by the end of it, feeling so confident in that language and so, you know, excited to learn and to learn about the culture and things like that. So what a phenomenal opportunity for our students. Thank you so much.
And a really great question, Director Nichols. I have a question around, I'm looking at the 90-10 model, and so they, the students start kindergarten, you know, 90 in K and 90 in 1 and 80% in 2 and then 70% in 3. And that's when the Smarter Balance assessment is first administered. How do you administer an English standardized test to students who have been speaking Spanish primarily?
That's really good timing because we've been having this conversation ongoing. And the intent really is by the beginning of 3rd grade is when you're really looking at SLA, Spanish language arts, and English language arts, and using the same concepts. So there's transfer happening. So you're really leveraging the 3rd grade year to show students the connections between both and giving them opportunity to transfer that knowledge from both Spanish and English.
Is there, I mean, we're not the first to implement this kind of program. Is there history or statistics or any studies that have been done in that?
Yes,
area?
we're actually really fortunate to have Blythe Young as our building principal, who has extensive knowledge in dual language programs. In fact, she worked in Bellevue, and she could probably speak to this better than I can. But we do see that there is, it takes time, even in our EL classes, it takes 4 to 5 years for that acquisition. So it takes time. So, I mean, we have Blythe as an expert, but we also have Dr. Salzman as an expert at implementing programs as well. He's done this himself.
And can I offer that I have a friend, one of my roommates from college, she actually did this down in California, where it was a 50-50 first grade classroom. And so it was 2 different teachers, Chad, just like you said, with the model, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, depending on the week. And she used to talk about how it was the most competitive class at the school for the white parents who wanted their kids to actually learn in Spanish. But she also talked about that science. So I've known this for like the fact that they, both of them are learning. And if you learn it at the same time, just sort of how it goes. So question, why did that school elect for 50-50 versus ours being 90-10?
We've had quite a discussion about this. Blythe, do you want to speak to this?
I would love to. We chose 90-10 because the research shows that's how we get our students to succeed and grow the most. So, not only have I been a part of the leadership of dual language, but I also had all 3 of my children go through immersion schools. And one of the biggest concerns was what President Mason mentioned is about data and where are students on SBA. And when you see the actual data come through, students perform as well and better than their typical peers. So 3rd grade, you might have students saying, what is Sumari? And then you say, oh, that's a summary, because they're trying to transfer the skills. They're not learning to read again. They're just transferring their literacy skills from one language to another language. So we're capitalizing on those students' first language for Spanish, and then the English partners are learning both. So it's really the best model, in my opinion, is the 90-10 to maximize the quickest, fastest, most achievable equity-based plan that we could have.
So my question is, going with that in mind, when they do the Smarter Balance at 3rd grade, will they be tested on SLA or ELA, or a combination of both?
They'll be tested in ELA.
Okay. And would any of the English speaking students, or the Spanish speaking students, be at a disadvantage if they're still speaking Spanish at 70% in the classroom versus 30%, or will there be any disadvantage for some of our kids?
Not long-term, because the language acquisition, it takes 4 to 6 years for the language acquisition. So it starts slow, but both end up exceeding their peers in the long run. It's not something we would see results in 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
I think
if
this
I
is
may.
fantastic. I'm very glad we're moving to an immersion program. I really appreciate that. My only concerns is how do we, what happens when we have more than 60 students? Because I foresee that we will get there.
Definitely agree.
We
Will
definitely.
we open up another section?
Yes, we've been talking about what expansion might look like.
Very good. Very good.
Student Representative Pilt Bisson, I think you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, yeah, this is more of a comment than a question, but like I started taking Spanish in 8th grade, and as soon as I started taking it, I started applying the like grammar rules that we were learning in that class back to English. So I just wanted to like speak to that point really from like a firsthand experience and other people in this call who've learned other languages, which I imagine is most of you, or at least started to. It really like opens your eyes when you learn about the grammar rules in another country because it immediately makes you compare it to the grammar rules in your own country. So I feel like even starting learning Spanish as late as in 8th grade has really helped me like understand English grammar rules better. So as for students like performing on the SBA, it's a really good way for them to be thinking even deeper than probably the students learning at 100% English would about those grammar rules of English, which is like a big part of learning ELA more than just spelling and pronouncing words right, is really understanding like the use of language. So
Well, go ahead, Director Berg.
I just had a quick comment, or I guess question/comment, but it was to kind of like what Director Lissens was saying about the popularity. And so I think it's going to be wildly popular because it's like we've been wanting this so long in the district. So you spoke to, you know, adding another section and even a lottery. And so as you're making those plans, I guess I'm just plugging and hoping you're thinking about equity in that, because we have such a big geographically diverse district. And I've been with districts that have not looked at the geographic equity to lottery systems. And that poses, so I'm just putting that out there to think about now rather than later, because when you're drinking from the fire hose of success, sometimes you go, whoa, how come all of our kids are coming from a specific quadrant or part of the district? And just to really be mindful to get this accessible to students all over our district. And if it is wildly successful, like I think it will be, hopefully we can have additional schools jumping in to offer dual language and immersion type programs, because this is absolutely phenomenal and so overdue. So excited.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Any additional comments?
I just had one final question that was spurred by you bringing up the standardized testing. So is there any movement that we've heard of from OSPI that they're going to start offering these tests in other languages? You know, it seems a little ridiculous to me that, you know, get the English language arts part, but a lot of it, if your student learns best in one language, why not test them in that language to get a true understanding of what they're learning? Have we heard anything along those?
I think the programs are progressing faster than even the publishers. We've had conversations with even publishers around what they have to offer. And that's really moving things along. So as we see programs develop, we will see that movement start happening, but it's definitely slow, and the state's moving by more informational and professional development, and districts are starting to come on board, but we'll see it expand.
Just on that note, I know the Secretary of Education, that's on his platform, because it's been a lot of issues with every state, but you'll see these students that get immersed in their native language will be soaring because they're immersed in their native language. And you'll see it just will take off like you've never seen. You have an amazing principal and assistant principal leading this building. I will share with you, it's a perfect fit. This is exactly when you talk about fits here. They balance each other perfectly, and they've changed that culture of that building to go into next year to start this dual language program. And our biggest obstacle, which is real to everybody, is it will get bigger and bigger, and we'll have to look at that equitable lens, which we are now, but it's going to expand our community because people will be attracted to coming to a dual language program because you'll become biliterate. You're not, you'll be biliterate in a global economy. And that's just amazing. So I'm excited too. And I just had to say a few words about that. So thank you for your leadership, Principal Young and Ms. Bell. Thank you.
I would agree. I feel like we have such great leadership, including Dr. Salzman, who is speaks Spanish himself. So great to have that. Thank you all. I wish I had this when I was in school. All I got out of my couple years of high school French is the ability to order a chocolate croissant, but in a pinch, it serves me well. Any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none. We are now actually at a break and we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think we will go ahead and break just because we do have several presentations still left on the agenda. It is 6:02. We have a 15-minute break, so plan to see everyone back at 6:17. Thank you. Okay, I have 6:17 on my clock and would like to welcome everyone back. Let's see, do I have everyone back? I see a quorum. Although, Okay, we'll go ahead and continue with strategic progress monitoring presentations. And 11.02, we have a 24 credit plan update. Dr. Boughton, are you going to say a few words or should I turn it over to Dr. Woods?
Actually, you can turn it right over to Dr. Woods. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kathy Woods, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director Mason, and thank you to the board for the opportunity to present information regarding our progress on our 24 credit plan. The picture that you see on the screen is, of course, how we're all collaborating these days. These are teachers, counselors, and administrators from across the high schools in their district collaborating with partners from equal opportunity schools as we're working all together to ensure that our students have equitable experiences and outcomes, including access to dual credit courses as they move toward graduation with 24 credits and achieving their post-secondary goals. So we'll be looking specifically at our 24 credit plan, not only as a way of moving students to graduation, but through graduation to post-secondary readiness. I'll be sharing with you the systems we have in place so that, and of course, this past 12 months has required our people and our systems to make adjustments. And so I'll share some of that work with you as well. And finally, I will share with the help of Jennifer Linder, who is a success coordinator and a credit recovery teacher. And she'll share some of the progress of moving forward toward graduation and college career readiness for the class of 2021. And in particular, what about those students who maybe get behind on their way there? Our planning for the 24 credit requirement began in 2015 with the passage of a law that required school districts to move to a 24 credit graduation requirement. Like most districts in the state, Everett Public Schools applied for and received a waiver to delay implementation until the class of 2021, making this graduating class the first with the 24 credit graduation requirement. 4 years after the initial law was passed, House Bill 1599 refined the graduation requirements, and the law retained the 24 credit requirement. It also broadened the ways students could demonstrate college and career readiness beyond the smarter balanced assessment. The law strengthened the connection between the students' course taking and graduation pathway and their individual high school and beyond plan that they start in middle school. And finally, the law required the adoption of the academic acceleration policy, one that you recently adopted to promote access to dual enrollment classes for all students. In the state of Washington, graduation requirements have three main components. It starts with a high school and beyond plan based on students' interests, their post-secondary plans, and their strengths and needs as demonstrated in performance in classes and on assessments. This high school and beyond plan informs their course taking to earn the 24 credits, which includes specific subject area requirements. Students must also meet graduation pathway requirements through taking dual and earning credit in dual credit courses in math and the English language arts, or through the Smarter Balanced Assessment, the ACT, SAT, or AP exams in math and English language arts. Or students can also meet this requirement through taking a sequence of courses in CTE, in career and technical education that lead to industry recognized certifications or dual credit. And finally, students can meet this requirement through earning a cut score on the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, known as the Asvab. And that, so the pathway that they use is to be tied to their post-secondary plans. So for example, the Asvab would be most appropriate for students who are considering military post-high school. Here is more specifically what the 24 credits look like. 17 of the credits are considered core credits, those that every graduate needs to be college and career ready. That's English, social studies, health and fitness, career and technical education, math, science, the arts, and world language are also in that. There are 3 credits that are personalized pathway requirements. Those are likely fine arts and world language if the student is intending to attend a 4-year college, but they may be other courses that are aligned with their post-secondary plans. And finally, 4 credits are considered elective credits. Students in Everett Public Schools have opportunities to earn high school credit when they are still in middle school, or they begin their high school and beyond planning. And all of this is aiming at college and career readiness when they graduate, whether their plan is to attend a four-year college or university, a two-year community or technical college, to enlist in the military, to engage in career training such as apprenticeships, or otherwise be ready to join the workforce. The strategies that we have implemented to ensure that students attain both their 24 credits and that they graduate college and career ready include students earning some of their high school credits while they're in middle school, offering alternative ways of students earning credit beyond the classroom, such as through internships and proficiency-based credit. Students can also earn college credit while in high school. The typical course in a college quarter is 5 college credits, and that translates into 1 full credit in high school. So students taking dual credit courses not only earn college credit, but they earn additional high school credits based on their engagement in those highly rigorous courses. In addition, we offer opportunities in summer school for students to earn additional credit or to recover credit from courses previously failed. Credit recovery is also available during the school year. A little later, Jen Linder, who is a credit recovery teacher and success coordinator, is going to share how this works to engage students in post-high school planning by providing support and hope. Here are some of the practices that we're using to support students' trajectory through graduation and towards college and career readiness. High school and beyond planning through Navians, supported by our counselors and teachers, really helps students focus on their course taking in high school that is informed by their post-high school plans. Our CTE department is building out career pathways that help students not only take courses to meet the requirements, but to take courses that lead to dual credit and industry recognized certifications. Engaging in explorations, mentorships, and internships in the summer through the Career Link program is one way that students expand their understanding of the connections between what they're learning at school and how it applies to their future. Finally, we are working to expand opportunities for students from all demographic groups and all programs to earn college credit while they're still in high school. We have 3 funding sources: a grant from the Washington Student Achievement Council, a grant from the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and funds from our local Everett Public Schools Foundation that help offset the cost of college and the high school tuition and AP testing, so that cost is not a barrier for any student to earn dual credit. In 2020, over 2/3 of our high school students completed a dual credit class. This is a high number and well above the state average of 61.6%, but it is down from 2019. We found that some students who took dual credit courses earlier may not have continued in dual credit courses last year. Students have a variety of options in course taking, which is really helpful for them to have some agency in what they choose and see the relevance. But we also want to ensure that the courses that they take are rigorous and lead to dual credit, industry recognized credentials, or other means of ensuring post-secondary success. So we're working to reverse this one-year downturn in dual credit completion and ensure that all our students continue to complete dual credit courses in their area of interest. You can also see that there continue to be gaps in access to dual credit courses by race, ethnicity, and by program. That was the purpose of applying for the grant from the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction this last year, to be able to expand our dual credit opportunities and access for all students. We do have some really good news regarding the efforts we are making to ensure students earn their 24 credits and graduate. Here you see 2 charts showing the class of 2021. One of these was based on data taken in March of 2020, right before we went out. We closed our school buildings, not our schools, but right before that time when we closed. And on the right is where our students in the class of 2021 stand now. Green means that the student is on track. They have the expected number of credits to have 24 credits when they graduate. Yellow means the student is 2 or fewer credits behind. They're within reach with our good interventions. And red means that the student is more than 2 credits behind. This could be for a variety of reasons, including maybe 1 bad semester, transfer credits that have not yet posted, or systemic problems in our system in addressing the needs of the student. You can see with the class of 2021, we went from just over 63% of the students on track to almost 79% of students on track in this class during a pandemic. You may wonder how we made that gain in this year of remote instruction. 15% more of our seniors are on track than was the case 1 year ago. And we're continuing to work with our students who are still not quite on track. I'm going to invite Jen Linder in just a minute, who is a credit recovery teacher and success coordinator, to tell you about the work of our teachers and success coordinators, what they are doing with and for our students to ensure not only that our students will graduate on time, but also that they're ready for their next steps. This is Mrs. Linder's wall of wow using Jamboard in her Success Time class. Success Time is a class where students work on credit recovery, as well as on skills like goal setting. I want to point out that while finishing credit recovery is part of what these students are proud of, they also talked about projects like a DECA video, about applying to college and figuring out their post-high school plan. So I'm going to introduce Jen, teacher and success coordinator, to talk about the successes of 3 of her students. And I want you to really listen to the hope that she instills in her students.
Good evening, board and directors. Tonight I have the privilege of sharing the stories of 3 amazing seniors from Success Time class at Jackson. I'll use pseudonyms to protect their privacy. These students have struggled in school in the past in different ways and for various reasons. One has experienced homelessness, one has a sister with a disability. All of them are first-generation Americans and speak another language at home. Each of them has had their fair share of C's, D's, and F's, but each has worked extremely hard to overcome obstacles, and they all achieved very successful outcomes first semester. I'm honored to work with students like them every day, and I thank you for the opportunity to celebrate their stories with you tonight. So in Kayla's Wall of Wow, she celebrated, I maintained my grades throughout the semester and figured out my plan for after high school. In previous years, Kayla earned low to average grades and got a little behind in credits, but took advantage of our summer credit recovery program. In Success Time this fall, she was a leader, one of the first to turn her cameras on and actively participate in class discussions every day. She quickly finished the Washington State History module in Canvas to meet the graduation requirement that she'd missed in 7th grade. She worked with a teacher to regain credit for a digital photo class. She worked hard in her first semester classes, and her grades were the best she's ever had, mostly A's and B's. And she took the World Language Assessment virtually this winter and earned 4 credits for her proficiency in her native language. And she applied to Everett and Edmonds colleges and completed her financial aid application. So Kayla said, what helped was being in Success Time and having a teacher like you that let me know the resources I had to get those credits back. I definitely wouldn't have taken the language test if you hadn't recommended it because I thought I'd missed the opportunity. I also didn't realize I could ask if I could redo a digital photo credit and fix that credit. I was able to maintain good grades throughout this past semester because I was given time to work when in your class, and I was able to come to you for help. As for post-high school, I'm going to Edmonds College to do my basics. And then after that, I'd like to transfer to a 4-year, hopefully one with a great neonatal program, and continue as a neonatal nurse. So that's Kayla. And then his end of semester celebration on the wall was finished all my classes with a C or higher and raised my GPA. So Al struggled with motivation and engagement during his 9th through 11th grade years, and his grades were low, but he did really well on the SBA in English and math. So he was able to gain some credits back with his SBA scores through the assessment credit recovery. He also took advantage of our 7th period SOAR class at Jackson, where he worked with Eric Bush and Carol Tanner to regain some English and science credits. Al really engaged in our Success Time class in the fall and took a leadership role early on. He was really reflective in his weekly grade checks and enjoyed seeing his progress from week to week. He took Foundations of Business and Marketing, Intro to Law and Sociology first semester, and finding interest in his classes for the first time really helped him engage in school for the first time. He had his best semester ever, earning mostly A's and B's. And in Success Time, he worked really quickly to complete the Washington State History requirement and the Career Choices online class for a 0.5 CTE credit plus a 0.5 Tech Prep College credit. He applied to Everett, Edmonds, and Bellevue colleges and Lake Washington Tech, and he completed his financial aid application. So Al said, this semester, I definitely would say I grew as a person And now I'm getting closer and closer to the adult world and feel like I'm having to do stuff that I didn't think I would complete this year. What helped me turn my life around was thinking about my future and making my family proud. And I definitely wouldn't be as successful without you. My goal for the future is to finish my 4-year and become a software engineer. I like doing things that have to do with technology. And also my brother has showed me how to do a little bit of coding, so I got interested. And finally, Janie, her end of semester wall of wow post was applied to UW. So she'll be the first person in her family to go to college. She took Avid in 10th grade and again this year, and she's challenged herself with dual credit classes, including AP Government and UW English this year. She's worked hard in school, but her grades have not always been the best. She took advantage of our 7th period SOAR as a 9th grader, and now she's working on a Canvas biology recovery. Janie earned 7 language credits in high school, 4 on the world language assessment for her native language, and 3 in French. So this fall, while supporting her younger brother as he logged into his Zoom classes, she managed to log into her own, and she had her best semester ever, earning almost as many A's as she did her entire high school career. She's also working on an incomplete for UW English Comp. She does all of this and works to help her parents in their business. She applied to UW Bothell this fall, in addition to EVCC and LW Tech. I had the privilege of helping her submit her application to UW. That was exciting. And she completed her financial aid application. And she said, what helped me get my credits back and earn good grades was doing my work on time or on the weekend. Also being motivated in success class, and all the help I got around all my doubts about what I could do after high school were big motivators. I think classes like Success Time and Avid are very helpful, and I recommend taking them. When I wasn't motivated, thinking about my future plans and what I wanted for the future made me do my work. My post-high school plans are going to college, first community, and from there I hope to transfer to university. I still don't know which, but I want to study dental hygiene or something in the business field. So once again, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share some exciting student success stories with you tonight.
Thank you, Jen. As you can tell, Jennifer Linder is a wonderful advocate for her students. She works with each one to instill a sense of hope and agency, so they see themselves as successful learners and build plans for post-secondary success. This year, so far, she's done all of this remotely, which is pretty impressive. She's representative of the hard work that our teachers and success coordinators across our system do. And she also demonstrated a commitment to inclusion and an asset-based focus that we really need. So as you know, now Jen's getting her kids to meet the 24 credit requirement. But as you know, the state legislature recognized that some of our students across the state are going to struggle with that. And they passed, and Governor Inslee signed House Bill 1121, which allows districts to apply for the authority to grant waivers of graduation requirements for individual students in the class of 2021 and for students who are still with us from the class of 2020. There is already a 2-credit waiver of the elective or flexible credits in place across the state. There are 4 of these elective credits, remember. And so without any additional authority from the state, we could waive 2 of those elective credits for individual students based on their circumstances. Our teachers and success coordinators like Jen Linder are not satisfied with that, and they're making sure that they have their 24 credits. The emergency waiver also allows for an additional 2 credits that can be waived for individual students, either in the flexible or elective credits or in core credits. However, students cannot graduate with fewer than 20 credits, and only up to 1 credit can be waived in any specific core area like math or social studies, science, or English. Courses can only be waived that were disrupted by COVID-19. So another difference from last year is we can't go back and waive a course that they were taking their freshman year. It can only be courses that were interrupted this year. The graduation pathway may also be waived, as many of the students in this class have not had access to some of the pathways like SBA and ACT and SAT testing for at least a full year. Schools must make a good faith effort to provide access for students to earn all their credits. And as you can tell, we've been making these efforts all along, as I demonstrated earlier, and Jen Linder really highlighted with her 3 students. In order to waive credits or the graduation pathway requirements, we need to review each student's individual progress and readiness for their post-secondary plan. For some students, a waiver of a credit would be better for them. but for others, an opportunity to stay with us, earn credit, and move toward more post-secondary preparation would be better through the summer or perhaps into the fall. And those decisions will be made on an individual basis. So as we move forward, we will be working through the emergency waiver process with individual students. And we must also continue our plans for improving equitable outcomes, for example, in dual credit completion. We are actively enrolling students in summer learning, both for gaining additional credits, for credit recovery, and for internships, mentorships, and career exploration. We know we need to continue to focus on social emotional learning, and especially increasing the sense of belonging and sense of purpose. That means a continued focus on classroom instruction that is culturally responsive, relevant, and rigorous for each one of our students, so that we don't find ourselves doing so much intervention at the end of their high school years. To increase relevance, we need to strengthen the use of the high school and beyond plan so students' course taking and graduation pathways are aligned with their post-secondary goals. So I want to thank you for allowing me to share this evening, especially the exciting work that teachers and success coordinators like Ms. Linder are doing to support students in meeting their graduation requirements and preparing them for college, career, and life. And with that, I will pause and ask for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Woods, for a great and very thorough overview of the 24 credit plan. I think slide 10 says it all. Just looking at the increase of students that are actually on track is just so encouraging to know. I know when the state came out with the news of 24 credits, there was an opportunity, it caused some concern that not every student would be able to reach that goal. And I think we've proven that students can do it. And, there's always an opportunity to refine and take a look at best practices and continue to do that work. And I, in particular, want to thank Jennifer Linder for being here and sharing those stories. It's just so powerful to hear the individual student experiences that you shared. Really great. And thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to directors and student representatives if you have questions or like to make a comment. Nobody?
Can I ask Amina how it's been getting the 24-hour credits as a senior?
It has been worrisome just a little bit, but now seeing like the plans and everything that's being put in place to actually get students like the help they need. I know even for me, motivation has completely like decreased and plummeted. So I couldn't imagine what it's like for other people, but seeing like all the things that are being in place to help those students, I'm really excited. And hopefully we could get that up to 90% by the end of the semester. So that looks good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amina, because that's what what you're hearing from students and stuff. And Jen, I just want to say that I wish you could be sorry, if you could be replicated everywhere. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for sharing what your students had to say. It's always inspiring what every single teacher in our district does, every single staff person for the students' development. So thank you.
I also might point out as a parent of 2 recent graduates that it is not uncommon for lack of motivation for a senior to have in springtime of their senior year, pandemic or not. I think it comes very naturally, but thank you for hanging in there. Other directors or student representatives?
I had just a question. Sorry, for Ms. Linder. Just curious as how kind of this move to online learning over the past year, how that has impacted your work. Has it made certain things more accessible and hindered other things? I'm just kind of trying to get a sense for those kids that most need it. Has this been helpful at all? Is there lessons we need to learn from it?
It depends on the student. I'm finding some students where they really struggled in the past, and somehow this has been just the turnaround way of learning for them. So they're just doing way better, and they're not planning to come back in April. They're just gonna write it out. And then I have other students who are really struggling because, you know, the Zoom classes are really hard for them. They're just not picking things up as easily online. Sometimes they have trouble finding things and knowing where to go. And so it depends on the learner, I think. But I'm surprised every day about which students are struggling, or which ones are, you know, struggled before and now they're doing really well. That always surprises me. There's the one thing that I found really helpful about this online is being able to have students share their screen with me and I can see what they're looking at, and that gives me a totally different view into what they're doing. So that's really helped me a lot.
Great, thank you so much.
I would also like to thank Jennifer. Thank you very much for putting student voice in front of us and telling us how they feel and their reactions to what's going on. That's very important. I do want to say that we know that COVID, you know, the 2020 is not just affecting seniors. The graduating class of 2020 and the graduating class of 2021, there are a lot of students that it will impact. My concern is that we have this waiver, emergency waiver 1121 for the class of 2021, but there are some kids that have been impacted that will be graduating or hopefully graduating next year. And I know we're doing everything that we can for credit recovery to ensure that they have the credit that they need. But if any of their stories are like the stories that you've just explained to us, Jennifer, what can we expect next year? Are we going to expect the same type of support as far as waiver of credits for graduation, or do you know?
Yeah, thank you, Director Lassane. The legislature, I think Director Berg, Director Nichols probably can speak to this as well. The legislature is considering it's separate legislation to look at waivers for subsequent classes. So they passed emergency legislation for this because they knew it was an emergency right now, but they're looking at legislation that would allow the superintendent of public instruction and others to declare an emergency if something else happened in the future, but also to look at the effects for subsequent classes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because we know that kids of all ages in school have been affected by this. They've lost loved ones, they've lost students, friends, they've lost a lot. And the depression and the social emotional needs of each one of our students just cannot be placed on the seniors. It's placed on all of our students.
I can tell you that Miss Linder, when I asked her to share a couple of stories with me, she gave me like a dozen, and we had to kind of pick and choose. But some of them were also juniors who are, you know, trying to have hope for the future as well. And so our teachers and success coordinators, and I kind of work with the success coordinators particularly, are really focused on what do we need to do to make sure that we're instilling hope and a sense of agency in those students. And so summer school and other kinds of options for earning dual credit and other kinds of things are things that we're looking at in the long run for our students who may have been impacted for this last year as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to say, just to both Kathy and Jennifer, just thank you so much for all you do, because this time is so challenging. And I think to President Mason's point, we all kind of gasped when we had to go to 24 credits. And then if you would have said we'd have to do it during a global pandemic, we all would have been like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And in some kind of way, we're getting it done for kids. But what I will say, and we can totally take this offline, I would love to talk with Kathy and maybe Jennifer, anybody else in the next like 48 hours about some thoughts that you might have, because there's, you know, yeah, because I would love to talk with you. So we'll just leave it there.
I would love to have a conversation with you.
Okay, hearing no further questions or comments, we'll go ahead and thank Ms. Linder and Dr. Woods and move forward to section 12.0 of the agenda, which is information and discussion. Tonight, we have a communications update, and Ms. Kathy Reeves is going to provide the presentation.
Okay, do you see that?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Thank you for having me here this evening to talk about communications. I know we have a little bit of a communications update in every monthly re-entry planning, but this presentation has a little bit more than just what we've been doing for re-entry. Even though it has been a large part of our job this year, there are other pieces we wanted to share with you. So for tonight, I wanted to go over the role of communications, some barriers that we have faced this year, and things that we've learned and are doing differently, and then a brief update on external communications, internal communications, and then social media. And I'll start by introducing the team. So this is the amazing communications team, and really do work well together, which is a great testament since 3 of the 4 of us are new within the last 2.5 years. So I will start by introducing Jennifer in the top left-hand corner. Well, first of all of us are trained to cover a lot of different responsibilities. So every team member can write press releases and work on the website and do social media and write and all the different pieces we need to do. But each person also has their specialty. So Jennifer in the top left, she is our communications coordinator. And her main responsibility includes facilitating the Our Schools newsletter. She helps feed information to school newsletters. But the most important thing she does is she is our Blackboard Connect expert. So Blackboard Connect is that mass messaging tool we use for district communications, for school communications, whenever we need to send out broad messages. She is not only the expert, she's also that really nice voice that you hear when you get a message on your voicemail from the district. That is Jennifer. And she also helps train schools in how to use it, since schools can send messages that way as well. When they need to learn how to use it, she can go out to the schools and teach them all how to do that. And then Kim in our bottom left is our communications coordinator. She is the newest member of our team. She started 2 months before COVID hit and we all went remote. So she had a very brief time in the office before we all started working from home. And she really is our biggest all-purpose player. She can cover almost every responsibility, but we mainly use her for writing and photography and video and image editing, and then anything administrative. And Linda is our veteran in the department. She's in the bottom right. She supports all of our online newsletters, and she is our social media guru, keeping us well connected with the community and providing support for the schools in all of their social media channels. So besides those tasks listed and dealing with the media and the website and other communications efforts, what does communications do? I get asked that question, and I try to think about the best way to explain what communications does. And I came up with this idea that we are kind of like an air traffic controller. So there are multiple messages coming through at all times, and these are represented with the airplanes here, and they come from all different departments and inside and outside the district, messages that we have to communicate. And they come at all times of the day. And you notice I didn't make them gliders. These are jets, okay? So they all come in really fast and they all want to land at the same time. So our job really is to monitor these and to do the things that I have listed out here in the blue. We take the messages and we make sure that that they're readable, right? We try to shoot for a 4th grade language level. We balance them with the district priorities. We try to get rid of jargon if we can. We know that we recently talked about the word asynchronous and how we need to be describing some of the words that we may use internally that might not be understood externally. We also have to look at conflicting messages. So if one department has a message that they sent out that has a certain date or time in it, but another department sends an unrelated message but has an overlapping or conflicting date and time, then we need to make sure to connect those two and make sure accurate information is given out. And then we make sure that we have it in the appropriate languages and that the timing is right on these, because we really do try to send out one message with all the information needed at the time rather than 3 different messages that kind of all could have been combined together. And then we determine who the right audience is. You know, does this message just go to elementary, and did we write it in a way that really focuses on elementary, or, you know, and does that have a conflict with what secondary was told? And is that going to be confusing for families? And do all staff have a full understanding of what the message is? So these are the everyday kind of monitoring and coordinating that we do. It is the largest part of our job, and it's like being an air traffic controller. And with any job, there are some barriers that you face. We had some different ones this year. And with our goal of really making sure we can communicate accurate and timely information, we ran up against some pretty big barriers this year. And the first one's not going to surprise you. Our information sources, even the most reliable ones, often contradicted each other. So we might hear one piece of information from the governor's office, but something a little different from the local health department versus something different from OSPI. And really, it was a challenge to determine what information was the most accurate that we could send out. And it changed very, very quickly. Sometimes multiple times in a day, the same message would come down or change throughout the day. And as you know, incorrect information can often spread very quickly through rumors. So along with trying to get the most accurate information, we also had to try to stop the inaccurate information. And especially in this time of the pandemic, people really wanted more information, but they wanted it with consistency and dependability. So we wanted to make sure it was accurate information. We didn't want to share stuff that we weren't quite solid on yet, because we didn't want to have to change it, because that adds to the confusion. And then this also year had a higher complexity of information, and lots of ifs, this, then this, and if that, then this. And so it was challenging to really take the complex information and boil it down to succinct, clear, and clean information, because we know that if we don't do it that way, then we end up getting misinformation, which leads to a lack of trust. So how did we overcome these barriers this year? One thing is, right off the bat, we decided to establish our trusted sources of our healthcare guidance. So we hear information from the CDC, we hear it from the Washington State Department of Health, but we have all along said we're going to follow the guidance of our local health department, and we formed a relationship with them. And we have weekly calls with the Snohomish Health Department and Snohomish Health District, excuse me, and other local school districts. So we get updated information, we get guidance, we can get our questions answered directly from them. And it's been really, really helpful for us. We also meet weekly with regional school districts, public information officers. So we can share ideas, and we can ask questions, and we can learn what other districts are doing and take that and apply best practices to what we are doing, and just come up with ideas that we might not have thought of before. We also worked really hard at keeping on top of national, state, and local guidance through webinars and through press conferences and email lists, and just really trying to get all the information we can in order to make our path moving forward. And with that, we focused on reiterating the facts in hope of stopping the rumors, and just reiterating the truth over and over and over again, or the fact of this is what we're doing and this is how we're proceeding, and sticking by that key message in hopes of making rumors less prominent out in mainly social media. Because as I mentioned, we really wanted to give correct and accurate information. And sometimes getting the accurate and correct information takes a little bit longer than people may want. And so we might not have been out there before CNN was in the news, but we made sure that what we were saying is what we wanted to say, so we could prevent retractions. We didn't want to send out something and have to pull it back again. And then the other thing we did is we used more graphics and flowcharts and icons, because it could help simplify some of these really, really complicated messages that we had to communicate. And so through all this, what have we learned and adapted this year? The first thing is our message sequencing. And we started this message sequencing to ensure that all of the right people knew things in the right order. So we made sure that the directors knew what was happening first, and then the cabinet was informed, and then our administrators and supervisors. And we did that so when the information goes out to staff, if they start asking questions, then the administrators and supervisors already knew the information, had a chance to review it, and could help answer questions. And we did the same process for staff before families. So when the family information went out, then they would be able to ask staff, and staff would have already had that information. And we found that that really reduced the number of, I don't know what's going on type of comments. Another thing we did this year is we started posting every district communication that we send out to families on our webpage, and we translated them into 4 additional languages. So you may get an email on Monday, and by Thursday, you don't remember what it is or what it said. And so now you can go to the family communication part of the website, and you can look back at that message, and you can look at it by the date, or you can look at it by what the topic might be. So this we see has been referenced quite a lot. Another thing we learned, and this is thanks to our new website that we love, is that when we post frequently asked questions and PDFs, we now do it in this what's called the accordion style. So this is the accordion. If you click on this little arrow, it will pop out the answer or the information related to this topic. So instead of having it in a big old PDF, you can look at the individual pieces. But the key to this is that when you do it in the accordion style, the content's right on the web page. So when a visitor comes to the website and they choose their preferred language, so let's say I choose Arabic, then I will be able to read all of this in Arabic. But if it's in a PDF, it doesn't get automatically translated. So this allows, if it's in this accordion style, it allows families to view the information in any language that they choose. And I mentioned a greater use of graphics. So here are just some that we did that hopefully kind of help as not only as a visual cue and a reminder, but help make things more understandable. So off here on the right, you can see this is the day in the life of that parents get before their student goes to school. And it says, this is what's going to happen here and when it's going to happen and what it looks like. And then more complicated things like, how do I know when I can go back to work if I had symptoms? That is a very complicated flow chart. It is all laid out with even pictures, so you can help follow it a little easier. And then other things we've learned and adapted this year, these are ones you do hear about monthly, but I just wanted to mention them. Parent University, which we add videos to weekly, is a great resource for our families that we didn't have last year. We also, spend a lot of time on the COVID reporting process. We have COVID tracing responsibilities, and then we have our weekly COVID dashboard. And this is actually the snapshot from last week. If you notice, there was a 0 right here for district totals, so that's kind of exciting. So these are things that we are doing new and different this year that are things that you've already heard about, but I wanted to mention them. So a couple quick updates on external communications. These are some other really great wins that we had this year. We've talked before about the website refresh. It's really been a great tool for us to use and use in better and more clear ways than we did with our last website. We also have this social media directory, which you can see is also in the accordion style. And this is on our communications page on the website. And if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to find out if Madison Elementary has a Facebook page, you would go to elementary social media, you'd click on it and you'd hit on Facebook, and then you would know what the social media Facebook page for Madison or whatever school you pick is. So these are all, I guess you'd say, official social media accounts that are archived with our system. And it's a great resource for families to find out another way to connect with their schools. And then we had this Stay Connected resource, which I've mentioned before, but it is a really clear outline of the 20 to 25 ways that you can get, receive, or give information to the school district and what each platform is primarily used for. And then, as you know, also this year, we had a lot more interaction with the national media than we have in the past. And as the year has passed since our first COVID case, we had more national media attention in this last month. But that was kind of a new thing for us this last year as well. Internal communications, you probably don't hear too much about, so I want to give you a quick overview. We do have an internal staff page on our website you can only get to by logging in. And on that page, there's a COVID resource page that has lots of information about all of the trainings and the information they need to know about COVID. It has all of the different information about how and where and when they can get vaccinated, and anything that you would want to know as a staff person about COVID. We also have a staff news page that we keep all of our news information updated on. And another thing we do is, and I mentioned this as part of Jennifer's job, is we every month feed district announcements to the individual schools so they can include information in their school newsletters. So that's a piece of our internal communication. And then we have board notes. So you might not know this, but every board meeting, we take notes about what goes on in the meeting, and the day after, we send this information out to all staff members. So if they are unable to attend, they get kind of a summary of what happened, as well as a link to the video if they'd like to watch it the following day. And this is news links. It comes out the first Thursday of every month to all staff. And it just links through a bunch of different events, news, anything that we have that we can share with them that we think is meaningful comes out to staff via the news links. And then the principal packet is how we get COVID updates to our administrators for things that they need to know to run their school safely and effectively during COVID. And last but not least, our social media update. This is how our social accounts have done in the last year from February to February. These are just the district run accounts, so not all of the different school accounts. This is just for Everett Public Schools accounts. So we saw a 13% increase in Facebook engagement, a 9% in Twitter, 24% increase in Instagram, and 44% more people have downloaded our school district app. And that is all I have. So if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. What a great presentation. I have to say, you guys are incredible. What a, small department. You have had to make a lot of adjustments this year, and you have just totally rocked it. I just can't say thank you enough for the communication that you have put out. I know we get the occasional, I don't see any, they haven't communicated. And I think that's, occasionally parents miss a communication, but I just feel so confident in your team and what our district has done this year to be able to provide the best and timely communication as possible, given all the circumstances we've had. So thank you for a tremendous job. With that, I'm going to open it up to, I have no questions. You covered it quite thoroughly.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say thank you so much for that we get CC'd on everything, so I know what's happening. But sorry to interrupt you, Andrew. I just want to say thank you.
I would echo that. And the other thing that I want to highlight is how responsive your department has been. I've seen lots of parents talking to each other in online forums saying, you know, I contacted the Facebook account for the district and they gave me this answer. And even when it came to COVID reporting, you know, it seemed like a lot of parents started asking for school-specific COVID numbers, and the district, your department, was very clear about how and when that information was going to be released, and moved it quickly as possible. So I just want to say again, thank you, good job, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I wanted to echo that. I think communication has really been our strong suit throughout this whole crisis, and I know it's going to continue beyond. I love the social media directory. So as you were doing your presentation, Kathy, I was like on my other screen, like I was like following along. And so what I'm wondering is, though, it took me a couple of clicks, which could totally be me. So for the social media directory, like just going to like district departments and then communication and then there, or is there an easier way to get there?
You could search for it, but other than that, that's the fastest way.
Maybe, and just not like anything, but like at some point, maybe we could think about highlighting that, because I feel, especially with our younger parents coming in, they're connecting with their schools via social media, and to be able to go to that file, it's so cool. Because when I click on it, yeah, I just like, I'm looking, I'm like, oh yeah, I can find my kid's school, I can, you know, and then I'm done. And honestly, as a parent, like if I wasn't on the board, that would be the only way I do it, right? I would just not pay attention to anything else. I would just be on social media. So it'd be great to, even if we just highlighted it like, hey, this is where you can do it from our homepage, or maybe one click would be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just had a question about what the procedure or the guidance is, and if it comes directly from, if it's decisions directly from you guys, or if there's procedure on this from the policy, but regarding current events or crises, since we've seen a lot of things in the past year, that it's sort of difficult to be in a position where you need to speak out on things, but also difficult to stay silent on that kind of thing. I was just wondering, because I know that the status quo is we typically, at least what I've seen, our communications like regarding those things, but they do tend to stay pretty mellow, and I was just wondering if that's like a decision on your guys' part, or a procedure from the district.
There isn't, that I'm aware of, a policy or procedure that says this is how you respond to this situation, and that's because we are often surprised by situations. But typically the way it happens, when something comes up and we find out either ourselves or we find out from someone else giving us the information, then we kind of huddle as an executive team, and I talk with Dr. Salzman, and we, you know, talk about what is our role as educators and as the school district to address this issue. Is it affecting our students? You know, is it affecting our community? And we make the decision based from that point. So there isn't a real black and white on it.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering, as I guess sort of like a comment or a suggestion, if there could be some sort of, not necessarily policy, but some sort of like situation where we could examine like resources, educational, or for people to learn about issues that are going on right now, because I think that the communication I saw about the recent like attention for a spike in Asian American Pacific Islander crimes, hate crimes, was a communication about how to report crimes like that, and I think it could be a really good opportunity for things like that, or sort of things we could have done past in the summer with the Black Lives Matter movement, just providing like resources for students. I mean, I saw your hand go up there if you want to piggyback.
Yeah, I'm in ASB, so we also have to kind of maneuver around our school page, because we're kind of like the face of the school. And like recently we had like this really big like issue that our page didn't respond quick enough to a certain issue, and instead of kind of being like sorry for that, we took accountability for it, obviously. And in our on our bios and things like that, we actually put links to resources. We shared GoFundMe's. We talked about it in schools. We put it on our stories, just to make students aware, and just to make parents aware that we do see like what they're saying and where they're coming from. So you can obviously go and educate like students with the actual profile, or you can like send students a certain direction with like a website link or something like that. But that's what worked for us, just because I know sometimes it's hard for the board to take a political stance. In our matter, it was a political stance. It wasn't really political, but we did receive some backlash from the community. But yeah, just educating and putting it in bios, links, and things like that worked for us very well.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I had one more question. This was about the recent sort of situation with the survey that was sent out for parents about reopening, and like there was just sort of some confusion about that I've heard a lot about. I was just wondering, was that that I assume that was by this administration. So I was just wondering, and I don't want this to sound like I'm like doing like an interrogation, because I really do appreciate all of the work that you guys do. It's really, really useful for my parents, I know, and also as a student. I check the Instagram like all the time and like send the post to my friends all the time and stuff. But I was just wondering, like, because I've heard actually, and one of like the biggest tasks as a student representative is to like advocate for students and also communicate to them kind of what happened. I heard a lot of like confusion and some frustration about like the communication that was sent out about the survey about returning to in-person learning. So I was just wondering if there was like a message that you would want me to relay back to students regarding that.
Well, I guess it would depend on what the confusion is, because I don't know what the frustration or the confusion is. So I don't know how to resolve that for you.
Yeah, sorry. I could have been more clear. I know it's been extended so that parents now have until Wednesday to answer, but I think that there was just sort of some disconnect where people didn't know about the survey even, and it was like required to return to in-person learning. And there was just like, I don't know. I've heard so much about this in the past few days, and people posting it on social media and being like, guys, you have to turn this in by midnight, like, or else you're not going to get to go back to school. And I don't know if like something different happened with that than with other things, or
I think I get where you're going. Okay, so we did send it out to every family for secondary, middle school, and high school to the email address they have in the system. So if a family doesn't have an email address in the system, then they might not have received it. So we put it out via social media and on the website as well. Because we did not get a very good response by the deadline, which was Sunday, it's extended till this Wednesday at midnight. And then after that, if someone has not responded, the actual school is going to be calling and following up and figuring out what their answers are, as well as we have, and Chad, you can comment on this if you'd like, but we have some people are helping follow up with some of the students who are speak other languages as well, who might not have understood the survey.
Yeah, we had some of our EL departments responding as well. And we're working with International Rescue Committee for our refugee students, and they're doing some calls on our behalf as well.
Okay, awesome. I can definitely communicate that about there being follow-ups and everything, because I think that'll be really useful for people to know.
And just to piggyback on Tara's comment, so being one of those confused Jackson parents, so I only had two things, because and not to say, I'm sure most parents are way more on top of things than I am. So like I forwarded out to my kids and I was like, look, you ladies need to figure this out. Well, it's pre-populated, right, with the actual like name of the student. So of course there was confusion because of course I sent the wrong one to the wrong kid. There's that, we fixed it. But for Running Start students and students who are only taking partial time on campus, there wasn't real clarity about what they should check. So my advice, what we did as a family, what I advise everybody else do is just, if you want to be in person for anything, just to say in person, because like my kiddo's in leadership. And so it's like, if there's, your brain kind of goes to, they do want to be on campus, but they are in Running Start. So I think there was may have been a little bit of confusion there, but I think err on the side of saying you want to come back. Was that the right advice to give?
Yes.
I should have
Yes, it
asked.
was.
I gave that advice. Sorry, Kathy. I jumped the gun. I made my assumptions, but I think Tara's point was very accurate because I did see some social media kind of like, hey, what do we do? But yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions or comments. So at this time, I would like to say thank you again. And would you please pass along our gratitude to Kim, Jennifer, and Linda for the amazing work that all of you have done this past year.
I definitely will.
I know you've worked very hard. So thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and move to unfinished business. And tonight we do not have any unfinished business, which takes us to section 14.0, which is new business. And we also do not have any new business tonight, which takes us to 15.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Salzman, please let us know what those are.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the Board of Directors. At the March 30th special meeting, the board will discuss the following: career and tech education, STEM career connected learning, STEM pathways, and school reopening update. At our April 20th meeting, high school readiness, college career life readiness indicators, including social emotional learning update. The second quarter financial report, the board goals of 2020-21 progress review, and the April 27th, we have a special meeting where we will discuss the school reopening update.
Thank you. 16.0 is an executive or closed session, and tonight we do not have either, which takes us to 17.0, adjournment. And I just want to say thank you to all. Our last several board meetings, tonight we are ending within 5 minutes of our projected time. You guys are doing just an amazing job of presentations, and I appreciate keeping us on track and on time so we can all get out of here and go enjoy our families and the rest of the evening. So with that, I would like to thank you all for being here. It's been a great meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a week. Good night, and thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Right.